Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Andrew Musgrove here, just walking up to the office. It is the morning after Newcastle United 1, Manchester City 0 in the Carabao Cup. A great win for Newcastle United and a fantastic performance as well to secure their place in the next round, of course, drawn against Manchester United. If Newcastle are going to get to the final again, they're going to have to do it the hard way. But look, you've just beaten the best side in Europe, Manchester United, nothing to fear there. I thought I'd just do 5 key talking points from the game as I head up to the office, because so many positives to take out of the game. So we'll start. Number 1, Tino Livramento is looking every bit worth of the £40 million that they paid for him. Now I know it's early days and I know it was his first start, but he looks a right player. Deservedly man of the match, a great first half and even better second half, and then he picks up the man of the match award. You know, confident in the tackle, confident going forward. He looked like a seasoned professional, and what is he, 19, 20? He's looking every bit worth the price that Newcastle United paid for him, and you can see why they went out and spent so much money on him. I know there was a few skeptics among you about the price and whether it was the right position to strengthen, but I suppose when the right player comes available, you've got to make a move, and that's what Newcastle United did. Fantastic to see him make his debut, and fantastic just to see him go up against some of the best players in the world as well. I mean, he had Doku, didn't he, late in that second half, and he looked right to him. Fantastic debut performance, and yeah, a 10 out of 10 performance by Tino Livramento. Long may that continue, and just imagine how good he's going to be over the next couple of years with Kieran Trippier as his mentor. He can only get better. I'm really excited to see where that journey at Newcastle United takes him. Number 2, it's a word for Jamaal, Lascelles, and actually you might realise there's a bit of a defensive theme coming in this video, because the defence for me was arguably the best thing about yesterday's performance. For those 4 to be chucked in out of the blue, never played together. The 2 centre-backs have barely played first team football over the last year or even longer, and they look like they've been playing week in, week out together. So point number 2, Jamaal Lascelles. Now look, how many games has he started? He started Liverpool, Man City last season, hasn't started a game this season. He's rarely featured off the bench as well, but he was absolutely solid. You know, the captain, absolutely solid yesterday. There was some really important headers that he had to make, especially towards the end as well, but he was just assured. He doesn't look like a man who's barely played football. He must be keeping himself super fit, performing in training, and every time he's called upon, he doesn't let Newcastle United down. Every single time he's brought into that squad, whether it's brought into the team, whether it's to start, whether it's a sub appearance, he doesn't let the club down. Absolutely brilliant. And you know, he was linked with a move away. Newcastle were also linked with bringing in another centre back in the summer, but I said, when the links started to surface, when we rang the survey and people said get rid of Jamaal Lascelles, I said you keep him. Unless he's wanting a move, unless he's pushing for a move, you don't get rid of Jamaal Lascelles, because you know, he proved again last night when called upon. He's very capable. You know, he would do a really good job in a lower league side and getting football week in, week out, but he's needed at Newcastle United just to fill in the gaps, and another superb performance by the captain. Really pleasing to see, you know, and somehow he's just got better despite limited game time. Maybe it's the impact of Eddie Howe, who knows, but yeah, top performance by Jamaal Lascelles. I'm just walking past Gray's Monument here, and someone is not doing too bad a version of Celine Dion's, I'm not sure what the title of that song is, but she's not killing it. Most people will absolutely kill that song, that version, but she's doing all right. Point 3, the defensive theme continues, and it's all about Paul Dummett at this point, because Paul Dummett hasn't played for Newcastle United, I think, for more than 13 months, if my maths is right. That's a long time. That's a long time. He's had injuries, but he's been fit. Just hasn't been able to get into the squad for the large part of this season and towards the end of last season. But what a performance by Paul Dummett yesterday. What a performance. And two crucial challenges. In the first half, I think it was Alvarez was through, and Paul Dummett stretches out that leg and wins that ball. Crunch and challenge as well. And he's got to kind of come from behind the side of him, which isn't an easy sliding challenge, but he he made it, and goodness me, did Newcastle need that foot to get in there, because otherwise you're probably betting on Alvarez to score. And then late in the second half, the ball ricochets off Joelinton, it bounces back towards the box, and Paul Dummett just slides in and puts his foot through it, sends the ball way up the pitch, and he goes down with cramp. That was the move that actually saw him go down. Had worried he'd hurt his ankle, by the way. He was hobbling about, but thankfully it was just cramp. But that challenge, because in that moment Newcastle were caught off guard. If City had managed to bring that down, they would have been through, and knowing Newcastle's luck, they would have got the equaliser. But Paul Dummett put his foot through it and put it up the pitch. Fantastic performance for him to come out of the cold as he did. Like I say, first start in 13 months, barely featured at all. And again, he just looked like he'd been playing week in, week out. And at centre back as well, you've got to remember, left back's his priority position. But him and Jamaal Lascelles look like they've been a partnership for months, if not years. So fantastic performance from Paul Dummett. And Livramento got man of the match. He got 10 out of 10 in League Riders player ratings. Paul Dummett pushed him close. Paul, I really do think, in fact, any one of the back four, including Matt Targett, could have been man of the match. I thought they were absolutely superb. And yes, we're not going to make a point about Matt Targett. He's not going to be point number 4, but just a word from him. I thought he did really well. And if you're Dan Burn, who missed out through illness, you've got Matt Targett really pushing for that spot, and hopefully he can build on what was a solid performance against Manchester City. So what point are we on? We're on point number 4 now, and it's about the subs. My goodness me, Eddie Howe got those subs absolutely spot on. On one hand, fantastic to see Lewis Hall and Lewis Miley get a start in the middle. Some might say a bit harsh on Lewis Hall to be put into the midfield 3 when it's his debut, but he can play there. He didn't do too bad. He didn't look too comfortable. There was a few wayward passes. Lewis Miley didn't look out of place, I thought, for such a young lad. But I think clearly what Eddie Howe felt, he probably smelt the blood. He probably thought, if I'd make the changes now, I'd bring on Bruno, I'd bring on Anthony Gordon. He smelled blood. He felt that Man City were a bit vulnerable. And also that he just had to change it up, because Man City had, I think it was 70% possession in the first half. And that added into the fact the crowd were a little bit quiet, because it was a little bit boring. Newcastle were a bit passive. The changes were made. It's a statement of intent to bring on Bruno and Anthony Gordon, 2 players who are going to be key. A big week coming up, you've got Burnley, then you've got PSG. They will play key roles in both those games. So to bring them on at half time shows you what this fixture meant to Eddie Howe and Newcastle, and he wanted to win and he wanted to progress. You look at who was on the bench for Manchester City, Haaland, Foden. I mean, Foden gets 4 or 5 minutes. Haaland doesn't even come on. That tells you everything you need to know about Pep Guardiola's thoughts on this competition. But Eddie Howe wanted to progress, and it was a tactical masterclass bringing them 2 off, because it changed the game. Newcastle became aggressive. Newcastle were in the face of City, and straight away you saw the impact. They were sharper, they were faster, they were more clinical, they had more intent. Man City couldn't handle it, and Newcastle ultimately got the goal. So the subs, Bruno and Anthony Gordon in particular, absolutely fantastic. And Anthony Gordon, I mean, the man just continues to perform. What a season he's having, and long may that continue. I mean, his fitness levels are through the roof. He was chasing after every ball, and he'll start on Saturday. He'll start against PSG, avoid an injury. Oh my goodness, he's just going to get better and better. So that was point number 4 about Eddie Howe's substitutions. Now, point number 5, there's a lot we could say. There's a lot we could pick. We could pick the Barney on the touchline, Pep Guardiola getting booked because Newcastle were proper winding. Newcastle weren't winding them up, to be fair. Newcastle, it was all over the challenge, wasn't it? Man City bench thought the ball should have been put out. Newcastle don't even put the ball out. Jason Tindall maybe let his mouth go slightly. Man City weren't happy. Pep wasn't happy. He gets booked. Could talk about that. We could talk about Isak and Joelinton whipping up the crowd. Isak winning a challenge and then fist bumping the air to get the crowd going. But what I'm going to talk about, let me see, because there is a lot. I mean, the goal itself, Joelinton powering through after Jacob Murphy with a brilliant touch. Cool, calm, collective finish by Alexander Isak, because them ones are sometimes easier to miss than score, because you've got to be really quick. But he just brings the ball down and pops the ball into the back of the net. Point 5, I'm going to pinpoint the moment I felt that Newcastle United were going to win the game, and it is to do with Anthony Gordon. He's come on and he wins the ball off Kovacic, down by the dugout, and he slides through him, he wins the ball, it's a Man City throw, he kind of goes through him as he wins it, it's a fair challenge, and the crowd just suddenly ramp up, and that was the moment the crowd really went, right, come on, ramped up, and you saw Pep Guardiola applaud Anthony Gordon, and then he applauded his own player, but it kind of felt like Pep Guardiola was saying to his own player, that's the kind of passion we need, that's the kind of belief, that's the kind of effort, that's the kind of commitment we need. And it was kind of like sarcastic, it was kind of like half-hearted, and for me it kind of just led me to believe actually Newcastle want this a bit more, because I think that was Pep kind of saying, your heart's not really in this tonight, is it? And look, you can't really blame the City players. Pep made his feelings quite clear beforehand. He wasn't really interested in this competition. Newcastle United want to win the competition because it's been that long since they've won anything. So I just felt that was the moment. That was the moment for me. I thought, yeah, Newcastle are going to win this because their heart's in it. They want it more. Go back and watch on the highlights if you didn't manage to catch it. It's a really kind of, I think it's the turning point essentially, along with the subs that were made at half time. But what a performance by Newcastle United. You know, they just ran City into the ground. They were, they were clinical, they were intent, they wanted to go forward. They wanted to win this game. That was the bottom line of it. They wanted to win this game more than Manchester City. You can see that by the subs, you can see by the way they went forward. They were just better. Only 1-0. Could have been a couple more. I know City had the chances as well, but they didn't really test Nick Pope. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we look ahead to Burnley on Saturday. We look ahead to PSG, and obviously then the draw the last week of October, isn't it, for Manchester United? A few games to come in between then, isn't there, though? Not least the Champions League games. But yeah, 5 key points from Newcastle United 1, Manchester City 0, up at St James's Park as Newcastle progress through the next round of the Carabao Cup.